Hello, boys and girls. This is how I made $21,000 day trading NASDAQ this morning. Bit of a little over leverage for me today. I'm not going to lie. I traded with a little bit higher contract size than I should have on this, but ended up winning the trade. So no harm, no foul, right? You know what I'm saying? But let's go over the daily bias. Per usual, I traded this live on Kick with you guys. Okay, so I go live every single morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time on Kick. There will be a little link down in the description so you guys can follow me, turn on notifications to watch me go live and talk through all of these confluences. All right, so with that being said, let's go through my daily bias for the day. So coming into the day, I was obviously going to be bearish, and you're saying, why obviously were you going to be bearish? Because coming into New York session, we had these London lows and we had these Asian session lows. Those, for me, were my obvious draws on liquidity. After manipulating to the upside during pre-market, it was just those draws on liquidity were pretty obvious for me, especially after having this huge up leg. We were super overextended. We definitely needed to see some sort of a retrace, and we ended up actually getting that relatively quick, and that's what I ended up trading off of. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch like the majority of the move. I'm pretty sure I would have made far more money if I was able to catch the majority of the move, but the lessons that I learned from last trade recap, I applied to this one, and I'm not going to break my rules 2 trading days in a row. I didn't trade yesterday because there was CPI news data. We did have unemployment claims today, but it didn't affect the market at all, as you can see, and those came out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So again, an hour before market open, I wasn't too worried about it. So again, on ES, it was a similar situation. We had these London session lows and then these Asian session lows for my draws on liquidity. Now, if we go into market open, we can actually break down how this looks. So the first thing was on NASDAQ was that right when market opened, I wanted these London session lows and I wanted these Asian session lows. We immediately break structure right when the market opens. For me, I was not fucking with that at all. And on top of that, on this candlestick, we ended up taking out London session lows. So I was panicking a bit because this was one of my take profits, but luckily we still had this draw on liquidity down here. And as we can see, once we hit this draw on liquidity, we've since then been going sideways. But market comes down, we break 5-minute structure, we break 5-minute bullish order flow. Now I'm going to be looking for 5-minute bearish order flow continuation. How can we see that? Via this 5-minute order block, via this 5-minute fair value gap, via 5-minute equilibrium, okay, this breaker block, literally every single one of our 5-minute confluences to show continuation got hit. From there, I would have wanted to scale down into the 1-minute time frame, and I probably would have executed once we invalidated this 1-minute gap, which was on this candlestick. And on stream, you guys know I was screaming because I was really pissed off that we ended up invalidating this gap before the macro. Okay, I don't really like to trade until the macro gets hit, and I've learned my lesson on this before to not trade until the macro gets hit. So I waited until the macro got hit, and again, this would have given me a far better risk reward. Again, if I entered off of this with stops, I would probably have to put these like relatively high. I would probably just put it over this breaker right here and then take profit at these Asian session lows. Would have given me a slightly better risk reward. But because it wasn't during the macro, I had to sit back and wait. Because we made a 5-minute extension down, I was waiting for another 5-minute retrace. So again, this was the 5-minute extension down. We didn't hit Asian session lows, and then boom, the macro opened. This was a bit of a tricky trade because we didn't have any fair value gaps. We didn't have order block or a breaker block, but this is something that I haven't talked about on YouTube. It's essentially like when this is some free game. Okay, so oops, forgot that I had all those drawings. When we're in an uptrend, and we make retraces, these retraces can, again, some people call it supply and demand, some people call it an order block. I don't really consider these order blocks. But what is true about these is I kind of call these like accumulation zones. Again, you can call it whatever it is. I very rarely, if not ever, use these, but this was really the only confluence that I had to take shorts down to what my draw on liquidity was. So keep in mind, I wouldn't have forced this trade if there wasn't, or forced this trade if there wasn't an obvious draw on liquidity that I knew we needed to take out. And I wouldn't have just like gone in and entered off of like a confluence that I rarely take trades off of. But essentially in an uptrend, every single move down is a accumulation range, and it can be used as, again, some people call this supply and demand, whatever. And then the same thing in a downtrend, which is what we were in when taking this trade. Every single move up is essentially an accumulation range. I use this a lot in crypto, if you guys have seen me talk about crypto on stream, but I very rarely use this on indexes, but it's the same thing applies. Pretty much every single move up is an accumulation prior to the distribution to the downside. So that was really the only confluence that I had to look for on the 5 minute, because if we go back to the 5 minute time frame, so again, that was just to give you context on what confluence I saw for like the 5 minute continuation. So again, this looks super messy, but on the 5 minute time frame, we already pushed down and took out these lows, so we're continuing that downtrend. We haven't taken out Asian session lows yet, and we see the retrace. What do we retrace up into? This 5 minute up candle right here. Again, you can call it accumulation, whatever you want. Let me get rid of these lines so it looks a little bit clearer. Again, it's super messy right now, but we already talked about that. So this is our accumulation candle. We see price push into the accumulation candle. There was no equilibrium that was hit. Order blocks and breaker blocks are already up here. Those already got hit. And there was really no fair value gaps. And then from there, again, this still looks super duper messy, but these blue lines, I marked out both of the accumulations. So we have this 1 minute accumulation candle. I just marked it with this blue line right here. And then this was the start of the 5 minute accumulation. Both of them ended up getting hit. And then from there, I was just looking for bullish order flow to be invalidated. So whether that was a 1 minute inverse fair value gap, which is what I actually took this trade off of, or a 1 minute break of structure, that's what I would have been looking for. And we made this bullish fair value gap that I was looking to get inversed. And again, if we move this over and zoom in deeply, I marked out this 1 minute break of structure because I was talking about on stream how since we broke 1 minute structure to the upside, I need to see 1 minute bullish order flow, because now we're in an uptrend. I'm going to want to see a 1 minute downtrend form, or at least a break of 1 minute structure, and we can see that via either a break of structure or an inverse fair value gap. So I was watching this inverse fair value gap because these lows were just really low at the time. For a break of structure. So we have this fair value gap to potentially get inverse, and if you look super closely, this candle ended up inversing this gap right here. So I went ahead and took that trade with my stops above these highs right here, and then take profit was that bias of those Asian session lows, that draw on liquidity that hadn't been taken out yet, that I was like very, very confident would get taken out today. So again, there was a couple things. Really, the main thing was just talking about that accumulation candle. I very rarely use that. More often than not, I'm going to be looking for, again, more often than not, I'm able to take this trade, but because this trade was before the macro, I had to improvise, and I ended up taking this 1 minute candle and this 5 minute candle down to these lows after we saw 1 minute confirmation. So yeah, that explains the trade recap. And on top of that, if you guys haven't been tuning into the streams, do it. And please start tuning in tomorrow, because Trade Wars has officially been announced. This is what our bracket is looking like for Trade Wars. So if you guys are on stream, you guys know what this is. I'm going to break it down for you guys super simply. It is a 16 trader tournament. Every single day, 2 traders are going to be trading against each other, and whoever is able to make the most amount of profit within an hour wins. There's a couple rules. Each trader has to take 5 trades within that hour-long time frame, and on top of that, each trade has to have a minimum risk of $100 per trade. You guys can max it out. You guys can try and full port the account. And oh yeah, on top of that, every single trader starts off with a $1,000 demo account on TradingView that I will be actively tracking during that hour. The hour starts at New York Market Open at 9:30, and they have one whole hour, so from 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, to take 5 trades. On top of that, of those 5 trades, each one of them has to have a minimum risk of $100 per trade, and whichever trader comes out with more profit or less of a loss than the other trader, they will advance to the next round. So these are our participants for this round of Trade Wars. We have 4K Trey. Again, if you guys know who 4K Trey is, he's been pretty active in the streams. He's my dog, previous mastermind student, is going up against Nate. Then we have Ian going up against Brett. We have Simon going up against Waris. We have Raphael going up against, I don't know what this name is, Vahulin. Then we have Nathan going up against Spencer. Then we have Moritz going up against, again, this one's going to be a hard one, Jetua Payne, and then we have Diego going up against Muhammad, then Joel going up against Dennis, all right? And then this is going to be the bracket. Whoever wins this is going to go here. Whoever wins this is going to go here, and so forth, all the way to the championship. And the trader that wins the championship gets $5,000 from me, and then we'll rinse and repeat. If you guys wanted a chance to be able to join this, you guys should have been watching the streams, because that's where I send out the application. So if you guys want the chance to join the next Trade Wars, first of all, tune into these so you guys can see how the rules work, see how it goes. I'll be making a full YouTube video on it. It'll be super fun, super entertaining, and we're going to be documenting all of it on stream every single morning. So tomorrow is going to be when we get introduced to all of the traders. We're going to be talking to them. We're going to be doing trader interviews with all 16 of them, and then we'll also be doing trader face-offs. So 4K Trey will be able to talk his shit to Nate. Ian will be able to talk his shit to Brett. Muhammad will be able to bomb Diego. You know, it'll be vibes, okay? So with that being said, Trade Wars, we're getting into it starting tomorrow on stream at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. I love and appreciate you guys. Peace out.